WiSP Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Welcome to the WiSP Sports Desk with me, Chris Stafford. And as usual, this week I'm going to be joined by Nancy Gillen, junior reporter for InsideTheGames.biz. Nancy is actually in Dubai. She just arrived yesterday for the World Bodybuilding Championships, and I know she's just attended the opening ceremony. So a bit nicer temperatures than I would imagine leaving at cold old England in November.
Yeah, it's very hot. So I'm actually so I flew into Dubai, but I'm actually in Fujairah, which is one of the other Emirates, which is next to Dubai. So I'm here for the men's bodybuilding world championships, which is always an interesting one. And they had their congress today and then an opening ceremony just now. So it's been an interesting day. There's quite a lot of politics at the start, and then got to enjoy a ceremony, which is good. And then the bodybuilding starts tomorrow, so that's when the sport actually gets underway.
And that is for the men, right? But there's also going to be women as well that you're covering there.
Yeah, so the women's is in about a month's time. And that's slightly different. They call that, so they have bodybuilding for the men's, and then for the women's, it's called fitness. Just because I think women can't, like, the muscles, there's quite a lot of technicality in it. It's kind of how to find, your body is and what poses you can do. So women fall into the fitness category. So that's what I'll be covering next month.
So the beauty of what you do at Inside the Games, of course, is covering every possible sport, isn't it? You must be learning a lot on your journey.
Yeah, definitely. And I think before I took the job, I didn't think I'd, be covering stuff like bodybuilding, but it's something that not a lot of people get to report on. So it's good fun.
All right. Well, thanks for making time as always. We love doing this show. It goes out live every week, and then it will, of course, be post-produced and put up on the regular feed there at WiSP Sports, wherever you get your podcasts. Well, as usual, there's lots of news coming out of women's sports again this week, but I think the top story, Nancy, has to be the Australian story about equal pay for the Matildas, their national soccer team. That is so good for them, obviously, for women's soccer, especially in the light of the US team negotiating equal pay. I think that goes to the courts in May. So that's an ongoing fight for them. But it really is a turning point for women's national teams of any sport.
Yeah, and I think I think that the other teams that have done the same thing are Norway and New Zealand. But kind of when you look at women's football, Australia are kind of, they've always been there throughout the kind of history of women's football, and they are quite a big team. They're 8th in the world, and they've got players like Sam Kerr, who most female football fans, they know Sam Kerr. So it is really, really big news, and it's like the fact that I think they've said the men could probably still earn more money just because of the prizes for winning tournaments and so on is higher for men, but it's still incredible that they'll be on the same pay scale. I think that's really good news.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, good for them leading the way. As you mentioned, Sam Kerr there, of course, she plays for the Chicago Red Stars here on the National Women's Soccer League in the US. But there's a little bit of news attached to Sam because she's looking at a European team for this winter. And so far, we haven't heard that she's made a decision yet, but she clearly still has obligations to the Matildas, being her national squad. So that one will follow with interest. And we should also mention, since we're talking about soccer, that tonight the US team have their first team under their new coach, and they're going to be playing for Sweden. Now, they've played them a number of times, and you remember there was quite a good game between Sweden and England in the World Cup. You might remember that. But this, I think, is going to be a really good sharpener for the US team now under this new coach, and that takes place this evening, if you're interested, anybody who's listening to this live, that show is that game is going to be on Fox Sports 1 tonight. I can't wait for that. I think it's 7:30 Eastern kickoff. I will be there glued to it, watching our team come out all guns blazing. I was talking, just while we're on the subject of soccer, Nancy, I was talking to Patricia Gregory, who was I should say a soccer historian. She was on a podcast with me this week talking about the history of soccer. And so that was interesting. It was history of the soccer, the Football Association in England. And of course, they're having their 50th anniversary this month. But at the end of the conversation, I asked her, being such a seasoned professional herself, what she thought the magic was behind the US team and why she thought they were so consistent and, such a winning team. What did they have that the others didn't have? And can you guess what she said?
No, what did she say?
She said fitness.
Okay.
She said they have amazing fitness and their conviction as a team, that they can and will win every time they go out. It is such a self-belief. It's such a strong self-belief. But the first word she said was fitness. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know if that's maybe to do with maybe they've had full-time players for longer than other countries, and maybe more of a professional setup in America. But that is an interesting point, really, because I probably would have said mentality. I think that's what the American team are known for. They never ever want to lose, so they never take second best. But fitness is, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, they're totally convinced and have that sort of organizational self-belief, not just individual players, but that as a whole unit, as a team, they have that incredible confidence and self-belief. So let's see what happens tonight when they face Sweden under their new coach. Looking forward to that. And one thing we can't go into another story before we cover Irish hockey, because that was this past weekend, there were the final qualifiers for field hockey for the Tokyo Olympics. Now, if anybody follows WiSP Sports, they will know that Nikki Daly is one of our WiSP ambassadors. So I was texting her back and forth, wishing her luck and so on, and sending her messages. But unfortunately, I didn't get to watch this, but if you follow hockey, you'll know that they got through, and they, in a penalty shootout, which they were down, I think 3-1. You were watching it, weren't you, Nikki? It was an incredible competition. And also a lot of people attended that too. And it really has brought the sport to the foremost in Ireland, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's something like their first women's team to qualify for the Olympics.
It is.
But I watched it by chance because I was just looking on Twitter, and I saw that it'd gone to penalties, and it was on BBC Sport, just on the website, so it was free to watch. So I just thought, I'll watch that, and it was incredible. Like Canada, who Ireland were playing, they looked certain to go through. I think, like you said, Ireland were 3-1 down, and it was almost sudden death towards the end of the penalty. So Ireland couldn't miss, and all Canada had to do was score, but they didn't. And then I think the last penalty, they have, I can't remember what it's called in hockey, but their VAR, their kind of video referee, it got called, it got appealed for that. So Ireland had celebrated, and then it got called back, and there was a big review for like 2-3 minutes, and then it got the appeal was rejected, so the penalty stood, and Ireland went through, and it was just there was everything you ever could want in a penalty shootout. I really don't know how they held their nerve at all.
Yeah, I think Nikki said something about the tension. I said, well, that's enough tension for one lifetime that you got there. But I think, those two stories to kick off this week's news deserve. Oh, and
yeah.
We love these stories. Very, very encouraging for both of them. I mean, obviously, after their World Cup success last year for Ireland in winning that silver medal, they really were the underdogs, and now they're showing their grit and determination. So the very, very best of luck to them going on to Tokyo 2020. So there's going to be a lot to talk about with the Olympics coming up, but you've got a story about somebody who won't be there, and that's from boxing. Nicola Adams is retiring. Tell us about that, Nicola.
Yeah, so she's kind of been, in women's boxing, she's one of the biggest athletes really, and in British sport as well. She's kind of one of the most famous, and everyone kind of loves her because at London 2012 she won gold, and she kind of really like captured the nation's heart really when she did that. And then she retained her title as well at Rio. So she turned professional in 2017, and she is the world flyweight champion. So I think she did kind of intend to carry on her career after being an amateur boxer. She turned professional. I think she did, want to keep going. But apparently it was doctor's advice that if she got punched in the eye anymore, she'd have permanent vision loss. So she's decided to retire, which is, it's kind of the end of an era. Like, we're seeing a lot of athletes that competed at London 2012 and were big in British sport during that time period starting to retire. And yeah, it was just she announced her retirement in a really sweet way because she wrote in the Yorkshire Evening Post, which is she's from Yorkshire, and she said that the paper always really backed her when she was kind of up and coming. So she wrote a letter in the paper to announce her retirement, which I just thought was a really nice touch. But yeah, it'd be really sad to see her go, but obviously she doesn't want to go blind, so I think that's an understandable decision.
Yes, I believe she tore a pupil, didn't she suffer in her last fight there? In September, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was I think quite a bad injury, and obviously that's had a that's not just kind of fixed itself. That's obviously still an ongoing problem.
Yeah. Well, good luck to her with whatever she does next. And I was a bit surprised, actually, when I was looking up the story, that she's already 37. That was quite surprised me that she was that age.
Yeah, I think it's when she came on the scene as well. I think she was so that was 7 years ago. So she was 30 at London 2012, which in the sporting career, that's quite late to come on the scene. And then she's got quite a baby face as well. So I think I remember at London when I found out she was 30, I was really surprised because she looks like 21 probably. But yeah, her career was quite late. And like you said, I mean, 37, to even still be boxing at the highest level was really impressive.
Yeah, she's had a good career, so good luck to her. But we have some more dramatic news, don't we, coming out of the Netherlands, and a Dutch Olympian who's finding herself behind bars. That's really quite serious, and the penalty that she's, the fine that she's got.
Yeah, it's Madia Garfor. I think that's how you say her name. So 8.5 years in jail, and it was for drug smuggling and trafficking. So she drove across the Dutch-German border, and she had 50 kilograms of crystal meth and ecstasy, so a lot of drugs in her boot. And yeah, so that happened in June, and she's now been convicted, so 8 years in prison. It's quite interesting that, well, she's obviously refused it, but the Dutch Athletics Union have kind of said they're stunned, and they're gonna try and overturn it. So it's quite interesting that they're quite shocked by it as well. So I don't know whether haven't followed the case closely enough to see what the evidence was like. I mean, if they caught her with that, but she's kind of always said that she was carrying doping materials rather than she wasn't aware of it. So I think the Dutch Athletics Union believe that she wasn't aware of it. So I think at the moment she is sentenced to 8 years in jail, but whether the appeal was successful, I'm not sure.
Yeah, she's yes, she said it was for doping because she was trying to improve her performance. But the Dutch Athletics Union, understand, they're transferring this case to the doping authorities. So, I don't know what authority they have outside the general courts. So that'll be interesting to follow. But she, for anybody who remembers her name, will know that she raced in the 4x400 in Rio.
Yeah, and I think she was she was also at the European Athletics Championships last year. So she is, she is quite a key figure on the scene. So that is quite a shocking story.
It is very shocking, and well, she's certainly not going to be on the scene for a while if that sentence is upheld. And there's a story that we missed last week. We ran out of time. It was one that you had noticed that about Minna Atherton, the swimmer.
Yeah, that was at the International Swimming League, which is a new kind of format where like the best swimmers kind of compete against each other. She broke her world record in the women's 100 meters backstroke. So she did it in 54.89 seconds, and I believe that is the first woman to go under 55 seconds in the 100 meters backstroke. And that she was really on form that day because she was doing the 100 meters backstroke, but in the relay earlier in the day, and she nearly broke the record then. And then when she had the individual race later on, she broke it. So probably by the sounds of that, she could probably break her own record again. And she's only 19 as well, which is incredible. So yeah, that's good news for her ahead of the Olympics as well. Like she'll probably be hitting form just as that begins.
We like that. Good for her, and good luck to Minna Atherton. Now, talking about the Olympics again, because we're going to be talking a lot about the Olympics now as we turn the corner into 2020. And the heat is going to be a problem, but it looks like it's going to be a problem for a lot of sports, if not all sports. But they are moving the marathon and race walk because of the heat. They're moving it to Sapporo. Anybody who follows the Olympic Games will know Sapporo was the home to the Olympic Games, the Winter Olympic Games. But so they're taking it out of the heat. But we're going to see more of that, I think, Nancy. And I know this certainly was affecting equestrian sport as well, the cross-country phase of eventing.
Yeah, it was an interesting one, the move to Sapporo, because Tokyo, so that was the International Olympic Committee's decision, and Tokyo are really, really against the idea. When the IOC announced it, Tokyo kind of said, no, we didn't want this. And when I was talking to someone when I was in Warsaw the other week, I was talking to the guy, he represents all the European Olympic committees for Tokyo, so he's kind of the go-between. And he was saying that the mayor of Sapporo didn't even know that it was happening until the IOC announced it. So yeah, it's raised quite a bit of debate as well, because everyone knew that Japan, Tokyo especially, was going to be this hot at the time that they picked to hold the Olympics. And the games were assigned to Tokyo years and years ago. And like you said, there's so many sports that are being affected by it that it's almost kind of like the IOC are panicking a bit and thinking, oh, we have to look like we're being proactive about this before something bad happens during the games. So they've moved it, and it doesn't seem to have gone down that well.
No, but they had the test events, and I think that was a heads up. Then some of the sports where they had test events, had the effect of the heat. And I know a lot of research and care is being put into the management of the horses that are going to be in Tokyo for the eventing particularly, but for all of them. And a lot of research was done before Atlanta by the Animal Welfare Trust and Newmarket, who put a lot of work into preparing these horses for the high heat and humidity. So I think they're learning from that, and they've also done a lot more sophisticated tests that they have available to them now, which they'll put into play in Tokyo. But it is a concern. But at least by these runners going to Sapporo, they're going to be up in the mountains a little bit. I think it's about 800 kilometers north of Tokyo. So we'll see. I know their priority, as they say, is all about the athletes, whether equine or human, their health and well-being. So I hope we don't see any dramas in Tokyo, because I've decided not to do another Olympic Games. I'm hanging up my Olympic boots. But will you be there?
Yes, I will be there. If all goes well, I'll be there, which I'm really, really excited, because I went to London 2012 as a spectator. But obviously, this would be my first one as working there and reporting on it. So I can't wait.
Yeah, well, it's exciting to cover it. And, there's a certain system with the Olympic Games. I can tell you offline about that, which is very different to covering any other event. But I think that's about it for this week, isn't it? Unless you have anything else to add to the news roster today.
No, that's it. Yeah, I think we've talked about everything.
All right. Well, fantastic. Now, just tell us exactly what it looks like over there for you then. How long are you going to be there? How many days of competition?
So there's 2 days of competition, tomorrow and Saturday, and then I'll be heading home on Sunday. So it's not too long. They're quite full on days, but kind of they get it done quite quickly.
Okay. All right. And then you'll be going back, as you said, in about a month's time for the women's version of this.
Yeah, so that's in Slovakia, so that's a bit closer to home.
Okay. And where will we find you then next week for the show?
Next week I'll be back in England.
Hi, I'm Sam Cornett, a proud WiSP ambassador and a Canadian squash player. I'm grateful to find all my sports news in one place, and I love the in-depth coverage and variety WiSP offers. To follow me, check me out on Instagram, samantha.j91. Thanks for listening and supporting WiSP.
We'll have a lot more news for you next week as it happens from around the world of women's sports. In the meantime, don't forget to keep up with us on social media. Share your thoughts, share the love. That's at WiSP Sports. And Nancy is Nancy_Gillen, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
That's where you can find Nancy. And you can also find what she's writing about from the Bodybuilding World Championships there on the Inside the Games.biz website. And lots more coverage of women's sports on our website, of course, at wisports.com. And WiSP Sports, wherever you listen to podcasts.